Did you call bank? I called game.
What's up, Pack Nation? It's Pack Gaming here, and today we have a roster update for NBA 2K18. If you haven't seen one of these roster update videos before, all I do is I go to every single team and talk about their important roster changes. Also, I don't talk about every single rating change because that would take way too long, so I only talk about either the important players or important situations. And we're going to start off with the Philadelphia 76ers with Dario Saric. Goes from a 79 to an 80 overall, so a +1 and joining the 80 overall club. Next is the Milwaukee Bucks. John Henson loses 1 overall, and also Thon Maker goes from a 73 to a 71, so -2 overall. Now we're on the Bulls. The important player in all of this is Zach LaVine, from an 81 overall now to a 97, a -2, making him tied with 4 players as the best player on the Bulls. That can't happen, 2K. You have to pick someone. You can't have 4 players being the best player on this team. I'd still say it's probably Zach LaVine, but what do I know? Next is Jeff Green, from a 79 now to a 77, a -2, now making Larry Nance Jr. the 3rd best player on the Cavs. For the Celtics, Al Horford goes from an 86 to an 85, not that big of a difference. And Terry Rozier has been on the up and up for the past 2 roster updates, from a 77 now to a 78, solidifying himself as a good player. Avery Bradley goes +1 from a 79 to an 80 overall, back to the 80 overall club, but he has a hernia, so he's injured. And Boban Marjanovic goes from a 73 to a 75. He's a good player that nobody uses, and it bothers me, but whatever, it's fine. Also, as you can see, they have the Bumble ad on the Clippers jerseys. For the Grizzlies, Ivan Rabb goes +2. I don't know, I couldn't tell you anything about him. For the Hawks, Dennis Schroeder goes from an 82 to an 81, still in the 80 overall. And Taurean Prince goes from a 75 to a 78, one of the biggest upgrades in this roster update, tied for the 2nd best player on the team. For the Miami Heat, Goran Dragic goes from a 82 to an 83, still the 2nd best player on his team, but his play has been pretty solid lately. Kemba Walker was an 86 and goes back down to an 85, so again, as this season has been showing, Kemba Walker and Dwight Howard are tied for the best player on the Hornets right now. For the Jazz, Rudy Gobert goes +1, so now an 87 overall, and Donovan Mitchell loses 1 from an 84 to an 83. For the Kings, Zach Randolph from an 81 now to an 80 overall, so loses 1. Oh, for the Knicks, Tim Hardaway Jr. goes from an 80, loses his 80 overall club, back down to a 79. I like him at an 80 overall, but 79 overall it is. Okay, so these are actually some pretty important ones. Julius Randle goes +3 from a 79 up to an 82, making himself the best player on the team over Isaiah Thomas, who was an 82, now an 81. Isaiah Thomas was like a 90 overall when the season started. It's insane that he's been dropping so much. And from my understanding, he was playing a little better. He was picking up the pace with the Lakers, and they dropped him again. It's really aggressive. I don't know. That's my opinion. But what do you Lakers fans think about him? And Lonzo Ball goes from a 77 to a 78, trying to go back to that 80 overall where they had him at the start of the season. The only team that had no roster change for some reason, the Magic. For the Mavericks, Harrison Barnes goes from an 81 to an 82 overall. For the Nets, okay, so Jarrett Allen from a 73 to a 75 +2. I don't know why I always thought this guy was going to be pretty good in the NBA. He's only a 75 to be completely fair, but I do believe he's actually going to be pretty solid in the future. He's only 19 years old. We'll see about him. Nikola Jokic, I said it right, from an 88 to an 89, trying to climb back up to the 90 overall club. And Paul Millsap finally returned from his injury, loses 2 overall from an 85 to an 83, but I'm sure he'll grow it back in time. For the Pacers, Miles Turner loses 1, goes down to an 81 overall. I swear he's been that rating for this whole season. And Bojan Bogdanovic goes from a 77 up to a 79 overall. For the Pelicans, the biggest changes in this entire roster update, Drew Holiday, one of my favorite point guards in the NBA, 80 overall up to an 84. He's good. He's good. A 4+ change. And guess who else got a 4+ change? Emeka Okafor from an 68 overall up to a 72, who's playing important minutes for the Pelicans. The next player is Dwight Boyks. From a 72 to a 74, he has been growing this entire season. For the Raptors, Jonas Valanciunas is going up and up and up, ready for the playoffs as the #1 team in the East. 83 overall to an 85 overall, a +2 for him. He is good, and now tied with Kyle Lowry. You guys can discuss that in the comments. Oh, and one more thing. Serge Ibaka goes from a 79 to an 80 overall, a +1 for Ibaka. Chris Paul loses 1, but he's still a 90 overall. Not crazy change. Rudy Gay also loses 1 overall, but still an 80 overall, so not that dramatic of a change either. TJ Warren goes from an 80 overall to an 81, so a +1. A lot of changes for the Thunder. Steven Adams goes +1 from an 84 to an 85. I think he's easily made himself the 3rd best player on this team. My boy Melo goes from an 82 down to an 81. He has been dropping dramatically, just like Isaiah Thomas this season. And the new pickup for the Thunder, Corey Brewer, from a 70 to a 73, because he's been doing really solid lately. I believe he's even starting, but I'm not too sure. Don't quote me. Karl Anthony Towns back up to 90 overall with a +1 rating change, back on that 90 overall club. And oh man, y'all aren't gonna like this. Derrick Rose 76 to 74. It's just getting sad now. It's like I want him to do good. It's early though. We'll see how he progresses. But man, for the Blazers, Damian Lillard from an 89 to a 90 overall, so a +1 for him, and also a +1 for Nurkic. For the Warriors, Zaza gets a +1 to a 78 overall, and JaVale McGee goes from a 75 to a 77, a +2 for them. And then finally, Marcin Gortat goes from a 78 to a 77 overall. And that is everyone for this roster update. Whose rating do you think should have been updated? Who got left out? Leave it in the comments below. If you like my channel, please give my channel a sub, and I'll see you guys next time. Also, happy St. Patrick's Day.
Did you call back?